looking forward to the runoff of the November general election, we're pleased to have with us today our GOP Chairman, John Watson.
Thank you, William. So Pickens County, who's from Pickens County? Okay, so 2014, 6,900 votes for our good Governor Nathan Deal. 2016, 11,600 votes for our President Donald Trump. Yay. Here's the mission, folks. 7,000 votes in 14, almost 12,000 in 16. Pickens County, I need at least 11,000 out of you. So put that up on the screen, put that up on the wall, put that up all over town. We've got to be able to take the votes out of this county because Kimberly, my wife, and I, we live in Cobb County. And the reality is that county, like others in this state, is changing. But we've got to do what's necessary in counties like Pickens that also is growing and changing, but to pull the votes necessary for our nominees. Now obviously, we are still engaged in what I call a family conversation, the primary runoff process. And that is indeed a family conversation because no matter who the victor in any of these races, they are all our candidates, they will be all our nominees, and we owe them everything we have to get these folks elected, no matter who we're for at this point in the process. And so with that, I only want to say thank you, sir, William, for everything this county does. Thank you to the men and women in this room. Get ready for the 24th, but most importantly, after that process, know that the real enemy is a liberal, extreme Democrat who has more in common with Hollywood and the Hamptons than it does the great state of Georgia. Always, always remember that. And if we keep our eye on the ball and do what's necessary for this Republican family, I can't wait for November. Thank you very much.
Kimberly Hochstetter, our first vice chair, I would ask you that you would lead us in a quick prayer.
I will. Before I do that, I want to just recognize you, Will. Will took on the chair position this year. He has been a breath of fresh air, and it's just been wonderful to see the changes. So I encourage all of you, if you're not a member, please consider signing up today. We're doing some great things here in Pickens County. That said, let's go to our Heavenly Father. Lord, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for this community, and we thank you for the time that you have given us together here. We thank you that we are one nation, undivided, indivisible, under your leadership. Lord, I ask that you would bless this food as nourishment to our bodies. And Lord, I pray that each and every word that is spoken here is nourishment unto you. We pray these things in the name of our risen Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
And Reverend John?
Yes.
If I could, before you start,
Go ahead.
Before you talk, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Absolutely. Oh, we got multiple flags. Let's start the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Now, Richard.
Okay. I will make this quick. How many of you have heard of the President's Team? Okay. How many of you know we have a Facebook page that we desperately need to get you to go and look and click and like? I have some material over here. If you like one of these stickers that says, I don't believe the liberal media, I've got them over here. This is an invention of Darrell Wilson, the African-American gentleman, very, very well-spoken, articulate man.
6th District in Fulton County. This is his brainchild. This is an outreach tool to minorities. And I know some of you have run into a hard-headed liberal that just doesn't believe that the economy is as good as it is, or they say, no, it's not that way. We have a new website, and we are linked off of our page. It's called promiseskept.com. Who's heard of it? Anybody? Well, it's got more information that you ever need to shut them up if you want to go and look. So I've got a few of these cards. I've put some of them on the table. They look like this. It's got the website with our President's Page logo on the back. Please help us out, support the President's team. Now, our next meeting is in Canton at the IHOP on Highway 20, June the 26th, and Mr. Brian Kemp will be speaking. And also, we've got 2 Venezuelan activists that used to go down in front of CNN and carry signs saying, basically accusing them of fake news for not covering Hugo Chavez's atrocities. They'll be there to speak for a moment too. Okay, quickly. Yes, I am a Jim Beck supporter. And we have fans. I'd like to make y'all a Jim Beck fan if possible. We've got some on the table, and I don't want to take them home. I've also got some of Mr. Belle here too that he asked me to bring. Polling data says, now this is based on the trends, that 1.1 million Democrats will show up in November and 1.3 million Republicans. However, there's an unknown. The George Soros money, because of the significance to the liberals of Stacey Abrams. So, my last request to you, get out the vote. Share it with everybody, okay? This is important. And we are working through our President's Page, and I post stuff regularly. If you have a good news blurb, contact us. And if it fits our template, I'd love to put it on there and give you credit for it. With that said, thank you for your time. Please go to our page and you'll see the events we have coming up. And thank you, William, always for your hospitality. Appreciate it.
Thank you. With that said, we want to start the speeches from our candidates. We're going to start with the candidates for governor. Lieutenant Governor Cagle, would you come up front?
Love to, yes, thank you very much. Probably be best for me to speak right here and everyone can hear a little bit better. But listen, it's great to be in Pickens County. Thank each of you for being here today. I've got great fond memories of this community, mainly because my middle son, when he was 10 years old, hit his first home run right here in this community. I had to chase it down and fight these little boys to get it because I was never going to let anybody else have it but him. But it is great to be back. And I will tell you that we're excited about our gubernatorial campaign. And I think the most important thing, really, that I want to share with each of you today is what a consistent conservative Republican looks like. And the truth is that in Georgia, we've had the great fortune of doing some wonderful things. I've served with 2 governors, both Sonny Perdue as well as Nathan Deal, and I've seen the downturn that we've experienced, but I've also seen how we've been able to focus this state to the future. And when you look at the conservative principles that we espouse, making sure that we stand for life. I was the guy who defunded Planned Parenthood and put money in our crisis pregnancy centers, but also being strong on the Second Amendment as well, being focused on making sure that we're expanding that right and protecting our Second Amendment. I've been that individual to do that time and time again, and that's why the NRA has endorsed my campaign throughout this. But also being focused on the fiscal aspects of our state. We cut taxes by $5.7 billion, lowering the rate from 6% to 5.5%. I have a plan to get us below 5% by putting true zero-based budgeting and program style budgeting in place to ensure that we're gaining greater efficiencies and focusing on outcomes. That's what Republicans believe in. Not just how much money we're spending, but what are the outcomes that we are looking to achieve every single day. And we're going to be focused on making that happen. We've had historic job growth. People oftentimes want to trash the state of Georgia, but I want you to know we are the envy of the nation. It doesn't matter where I go. People are always talking about the greatness of this state. And the truth is, we have outpaced in terms of GDP growth. We are leading in the Southeast. Nobody comes even close. We are even outpacing Texas as well. And we want to continue this economic prosperity where no one is left behind, being the #1 state to do business in 5 years in a row. My commitment is 500,000 jobs in the first 4 years of my administration, along with making sure that we're putting economic development liaisons in place that streamline the permitting process to get business open and running. If UPS can give you normal ground service and they can also offer you a next day delivery service, why can't government have that same level of transparency? When we do that and we are hold ourselves accountable to making sure that we are helping consumers do what's necessary, which are the voters and the businesses of our state, then we're going to see greater economic prosperity, but also building a workforce that is second to none. Our greatest problem that exists is we have sold a false narrative to society that says that we need a one-size-fits-all educational system that sends everybody off to get a liberal arts degree. The reality is only 25% of our workforce needs that. We need more in vocation. That's why I created the College and Career Academy Network in 2007. And today, I will tell you, we have 46 of those across the state where kids are coming out making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year right out of high school. And what is that doing? It's giving them a better alternative, a better choice to turning to a life of crime or dependency on government. That's what we as Republicans believe in. We believe in self-reliance, and we believe in giving people more opportunities. And that's what my campaign is all about. Making sure that we are creating this rising tide that lifts all boats, where no one is left behind. And I will tell you, through this journey, I am doing this not because I need any job or I need a salary. I'm doing it because I want to make a difference. I want to see this state continue to prosper and give back. And I will also just say at the outset, I understand what it's like to live in a challenging environment. My dad left when I was 3. My mom raised me by herself. Those early years were in a single wide trailer. And within that context, I remember my mom kneeling by her bed saying her prayers. And what she taught me was not just the value of faith. She also taught me the value of hard work, because she worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. She was willing to make a sacrifice for me. It afforded me the ability to be where I am today, not just a businessman for 32 years, but also to be lieutenant governor. I wasn't supposed to be that guy, but that's what's available. That's what's possible in a great state like we live in. That's what we want, is greater hope, greater opportunity for every single person. That's what Republicans believe in. And so I'm honored to be here in Pickens County, and I'd love to have your support on July 2nd through July the 24th. Thank you all very much for your time.
And now our Secretary of State, Kemp.
Thank you, Will.
Thank y'all so much for turning out today. Great crowd. Glad to have Marty and the girls, the Women for Kemp team here with me today. Y'all stand up. I know you probably got to see everybody all right. We've got a lot of great Women for Kemp working hard for us. Marty's been working on that. Martha Zoller, many other grassroots conservatives around the state that are helping us with that. Love to have you join that effort. And that is why I'm running for governor. Having those 3 girls concerned about their future. Unlike all of you all in this room, I've been a small business person, a working Georgian for over 30 years now. When I first started my own company, I had a great wife and very young children, and it's tough out there. And I worked for a decade in starting a construction company, getting involved in a lot of other business stuff over the years, a stone business, been involved in rural manufacturing, agriculture, started a small bank helping provide capital for local small business people and working Georgians like myself, because I know how important that is. And living in a town that literally, on a great night that we had on May 22nd, getting into the runoff, The headline in the Athens paper the next day was "Progressive Sweep in Athens Clarke County Elections." I mean, we didn't just have the liberals winning that election. It was like the progressives winning. And that is an environment that I have been fighting for a very long time, for our conservative values. That's why I got frustrated with the government, decided to do something about it. First time I'd ever run for any office after being in the private sector for 10 or 15 years was against a Democratic incumbent, because I thought we needed somebody that had a small business person's mentality, a working Georgian's mentality in state government. And we needed somebody from that area that would stand up and fight for our values, to make government smaller, cut regulations, to make us more efficient, to lower taxes, and that's what I did. Probably the best thing that ever happened to me is when I went back home for 3 years, returned to the private sector, focusing on my business and certainly raising our young family with Marty. And that was a time where I felt like there was a lot of Republicans serving us in the U.S. Congress that when Republicans had control, that we were not doing what we should have. And we got killed in the election, and that's why we had Barack Obama as president. I told myself, if I ever run for something else, I'm going to tell people what I'm going to do. And when I get in office, by gosh, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that's what I've done as your Secretary of State since 2010. I told you I would fight to make sure we have secure, accessible, fair elections in our state. I told you that I would streamline government and I would make it more efficient. And I've taken on Stacey Abrams, George Soros, the ACLU, Common Cause, and everybody else. We got one lawsuit the other day from Common Cause, and the next day Eric Holder sued us. I've been dealing with that guy for I don't know how my whole career. But I promised you I would fight for our values, things that we believe in, like checking someone's citizenship when we register them to vote. And that's why I sued the Obama Justice Department twice and won to get that implemented. It's why I stood up and fought for our common sense photo ID law. That's why I made the Secretary of State's office more efficient, completely overhauling all our systems to save money and to make government more efficient. We got a great record of doing that, and we still are working on that today. And that's exactly why I'm running for governor. And I think this race to me is about trust. It's about who do you trust to do what they say when they're talking to you on the campaign trail. So when I tell you about my conservative 4-point plan, by gosh, on day one, I'm going to start implementing it. Make Georgia #1 for small business by taking that chainsaw that many of you have seen in our ad and cutting government regulations and streamlining state government just like I've done in the Secretary of State's office. Fundamentally reforming state government by implementing a spending cap, something that Republicans ran on when we were in the minority and never implemented. I plan on doing that as governor so we can budget conservatively in the future. We don't overspend in good times, but we properly fund the things that we should be funding in state government, like education, public safety, infrastructure, transportation, health care, and so on. And then we could lower income tax rates in the future. It's no secret the reason we're lowering taxes now, and I congratulate everybody on doing that, is because of Donald J. Trump in the federal tax code. We can do more in the future if we implement the spending cap and make sure that we budget conservatively and dictate our priorities, and I plan on doing that. But we've also got to have a governor that will make sure that all parts of our state have the same opportunity, no matter what your zip code or no matter what town you live in. Access to high-speed internet, good paying jobs, good quality health care, things like telemedicine, virtual classrooms. As I've traveled to all 159 counties, the only person I believe in the governor's race that's actually done that, I have stayed with people in their own home where their kids cannot get on the internet. I have been told by Georgians out there that they have been to a local hospital and had to knock on the door because they were closed at night. Those are real issues in parts of our state that a lot of people never see. And it is not healthy, as good as our economy's doing, and I applaud a lot of people for that, but it's not healthy for only parts of our state to be growing. Because every Georgian deserves that opportunity. Your kids and your grandkids, they should not have to move away from their local community. they should be able to stay there and have those good opportunities where they can raise their kids and their grandkids. I have nothing against it if they want to move away, but they shouldn't have to. But the last point of my plan is this race is about putting Georgians first. To have a governor that's going to put you all in this room ahead of the special interest, the status quo, the politically correct, and those that are here illegally. I've been talking about that for 15 months, I guess now, or however long it's been. It's been a long time. Because I believe it. And I believe that's what people want. They want somebody that is going to protect our families, that's going to be up there fighting for them every day. That's what I'm concerned about as a parent. That's why we had a plan to reform public safety by tracking, deporting criminal illegals. And we also have a plan to stop and dismantle street gangs. When we have federal prosecutors that Donald Trump has appointed saying Georgia's become a home to the Mexican drug cartel, by gosh, it's time we did something about it. And I plan on doing that. But I also plan on putting you first. But I can only do that if you will stand with me. We had a great night, May 22nd. We surged the last 3 weeks of the campaign. We've been surging ever since. Our polls are showing this race is wide open. And it's up to you to decide who's going to be our nominee and who's going to be the person that's going to fight for you. And I promise, if you will stand with me and help me, I will work hard every single day as your nominee to beat Stacey Abrams. I've done that in the past. I'm looking forward to doing that in November, Mr. Chairman. And as a governor, I'll put you first ahead of the special interest. Thank you. God bless.
Good afternoon. If I had a bell, I would ring it. Thank you. My name is Geoff Duncan. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. And on behalf of my family, my wife of 20 plus years, my high school sweetheart, my 3 boys, we're thankful to be in this runoff. And I got to be honest with you, we've caught a lot of people off guard that Geoff Duncan is in the runoff for Lieutenant Governor. I'm running against somebody who's been in politics for 30 years, ran for statewide office and was a Republican nominee 22 years ago. And the question I get asked is, how in the world did you do it? You got outspent 10-1 by your opponent on TV. You got outraised 4-1, maybe 5-1, who knows? I lost count after a couple of dollars. The guy that came in third outraised you 3-1. How in the world did you do it? I think there's a couple of reasons. One is, people believe me when I say I like politics, I like policy over politics, because that's ultimately how we're going to solve the problems we have in our state, the challenges that we face, the opportunities that we face. And I'm not going to lie to you. Folks no longer are looking to elect the next person in line. They're looking to elect the best person for the job. And I'm not the next guy in line. I don't know if y'all have gotten the memo, but I'm not. I'm the outsider in the race. I jumped into politics 5 years ago. I got sworn into the General Assembly. I got there because I walked into a church 8 years ago with my wife and got challenged to stop complaining and start getting involved. To stop just saying, I want better education. It's the teacher's fault. It's the principal's fault. It's the curriculum's fault. No, I need to go spend more time with my own kid at my own kitchen table. We want to talk about politicians bankrupting our governments, and they are. They're spending money we don't have all over this country. Well, we're spending money ourselves that we don't have. We're maxing out credit cards. We're driving cars we shouldn't. Until we start making this a priority in our own lives, we're never going to make a difference. We're never truly going to turn the corner. So the call to action was this. Look, go make a difference in your home, go make a difference in your community, or go run for office. And Brooke and I and the 3 boys jumped in the ring, and I ran against a long-time, essentially an incumbent, former chairman of the insurance committee, and just like this race, people all over the place said, you've got no chance, Geoff. We not only had a chance, we won that race. We won by 55 votes. In 2013, we got sworn in. And look, I walked into that room and got sworn in with no strings attached. No strings attached. I didn't owe a single person a favor. And when I walk in as Lieutenant Governor, it's going to be the same exact scenario. The only favors I owe are 10.5 million people that voted in this election. I'm not represented by special interests. I'm not represented by the lobbying crowd. Because I stand up for the issues. I'm a policy-based guy. My 5 short years in the General Assembly, I worked on 3 really big ideas, and I'm proud of them. One of them brought help to this community, the rural health care bill. Rural health care is a crisis everywhere in this country. Everywhere. And in Georgia, we have 54 rural hospitals that have no clue if they can even keep their doors open month to month. I wrote a conservative idea that allowed communities to be involved in their future. I gave corporations and citizens the opportunity to contribute directly to a rural hospital. And in return, you now get 100% tax credit. Communities can now be a part of the future of their health care. Here's the best part about it, the most conservative part of the solution. There's no strings attached. Your hospital can figure out the best way to spend those dollars. Instead of listening to a bureaucrat in a cube tell them that they know best. It's a conservative idea. And guess what else we can do? We can solve other problems with we the people and not we the government. Right? We can solve other problems like foster care, adoption, homelessness, hunger, and even health care for low-income individuals. But in this race, there's a difference of mentality. I believe we the people are ultimately the solution for the problems. That's really what outsiders really come to the conclusion. If you're inside the system long enough, you are convinced that we, the government, have the solutions. And that's not the case. I'm going to spend the next 5 weeks telling people all across the state my story. I'm going to tell them my story, and we're going to continue to gain a grassroots momentum. And look, I'm going to be honest with y'all. The chairman mentioned it briefly. I'm going to ask some really tough questions in this race for the next 5 weeks of my opponent. And here's why. How many of y'all know the name Sarah Riggs Amico? I've counted 5 people in a room that's packed. Sarah Riggs Amico is the Democratic nominee in this race. She's my age, she's early 40s, she's Harvard educated, she's probably the most well-spoken person I've ever been on a stage with in my life. She's extremely liberal, and she's one of the wealthiest families in the state of Georgia. If we don't ask ourselves tough questions about who we really are and what we really do, I can assure you the Democrats are going to do it way louder than any of us are comfortable with. I can assure you 2 things if you support Geoff Duncan in the next 5 weeks. I can assure you you're going to be proud of my effort. Our team is going to work as hard as anybody you've ever seen. I learned those values on a baseball field when I spent 6 years in the minor leagues. You want to learn how to work hard, ride a bus for 8 hours and go pitch a game. The second thing I want you to be proud of in this community is my message, is my track record, is my history. In the General Assembly, I was only there 5 years. I voted no on over $1 billion worth of tax increases in 5 short years. I didn't vote no because I wanted a grandstand. I didn't vote no because I thought I was going to run for lieutenant governor. Obviously, nobody's met my wife. I voted no because I knocked on 4,000 doors in Forsyth County in 2012, and I begged them for their vote. And I said 2 things. I believe in smaller government and lower taxes. And I went down to the Georgia Capitol, and I did exactly what I told them. My name is Geoff Duncan. I'm running for lieutenant governor. Go to our website at teamduncan.org. I need your help. I need your neighbors' help. I need your small group at church and the folks you work with to come vote for Geoff Duncan on July 24th. Thank you.
Now, David Shafer. Thank you very much.
It's a great privilege to be here today with you at the Tomato Festival for the Pickens County Republican Party. I've attended hundreds of these meetings, and I've heard hundreds of Republican candidates give speeches asking you to support them in this primary. And basically all the speeches go the same way. They're conservative. They love God, America, their families. They're conservative. They're against taxes. They're for the Second Amendment. They're pro-life. They're conservative. They like Donald Trump. They're conservative. And then you're supposed to sort between all of these candidates who are saying basically the same thing and decide who you should be for in these primaries. And what I advise every voter, every audience to do is to look carefully at the records that these candidates have compiled while they're in public office. Because the way they have behaved in public office is a better indicator of the way that they will behave in the future than anything they say in their speeches, anything that they write in their campaign literature, anything that they say in their advertisements. And I think that if you look carefully at the records of the candidates in this race, I served in the General Assembly for 16 years, my opponent for a half decade. If you look carefully at our records, you will see that I have led on every issue that conservatives care about. On taxes, I wrote the state zero-based budgeting law. When I was elected to the General Assembly in 2002, the budget of the state, a document about this thick, when it was printed out and put on our desks, and we were asked to vote on it an hour later. That document only described about 3% of the state spending, the new program. And once a new program was approved by the General Assembly and signed into law by the governor, it automatically rolled over into every succeeding budget of the state under a single line item called continuation. I would tell this to Rotary Club when I was first elected, and they would look at me like, this could not possibly be true. But the multi-billion-dollar spending plans that we were voting on, 97% of the money that we were appropriating was on a single line item. Undescribed, unitemized, labeled purely as continuation. And the rest of that document was all of the new programs that had been proposed. The very first year I was elected to the state senate, and for every 2 years, until it was signed into law by Governor Deal 10 years later, I introduced legislation to abolish continuation budgeting and put the state on a system of zero-based budgeting, where 1/8 of the budget is rebuilt from scratch each year. And the members of the General Assembly are approving all proposed spending and not just the new programs. I wrote the constitutional amendment that caps the state income tax. I would like to see the income tax lowered. I supported the legislation earlier this year to take down the top rate. If I'm lieutenant governor, I'm going to force it down even more. But we are the only state in the union, thanks to that constitutional amendment, that has a cap in its constitution. And that's good for the taxpayers of Georgia. It's good for businesses that are thinking about coming here or expanding here. The promise enshrined in our state constitution that we will forever be a low-tax state. On issues of life, I was born in a home for unwed mothers run by the Sisters of Charity and adopted as an infant through Catholic Charities. There's not an issue more important to me than the protection of innocent life. And there hasn't been a bill passed in the last 16 years protecting life that I haven't sponsored or co-sponsored. On our Second Amendment right to defend ourselves, there isn't a single piece of legislation that's passed in the 16 years that I've served in the General Assembly that hasn't had my name attached to it. Which is why I've been endorsed for Lieutenant Governor by the American Conservative Union, by the National Rifle Association, by GeorgiaCarry.org, by the Georgia Federation of Hunting and Fishing, by the Family Policy Alliance of Georgia, by Citizens for Trump, because I've led on these issues, not just picked the right green and red button when they came before us, but because I've pushed the issues that we care about. I've been endorsed by Ted Cruz and by Mike Huckabee and by Newt Gingrich and by Rick Santorum and by Rick Jasperse and Steve Gooch. In fact, I've been endorsed by over 270 current and former members of the Georgia General Assembly, including virtually every Senate Republican and 2/3 of the House Republicans, because they know me, they have worked with me, they know my character, they know my work ethic, they know my leadership style, they know what I've accomplished under the Gold Dome, and they know my opponent too. He was down there for a half-decade with us. And I'm proud to have their support, and I hope that each one of you will give me your consideration as well. I'll close out with an admission. Early in my faith journey, I struggled with in Sunday school with the parables. I had a hard time understanding the wisdom of leaving 99 sheep unguarded because one sheep had run away. I had a real hard time with the runaway son getting the feast and the dutiful son having to do all the work to prepare it. I did not understand turning the other cheek at all. All of those parables had to be explained to me for me to understand. But there was one parable that I understood immediately without any explanation at all. And for those of you who teach Sunday school or remember Sunday school, it's the parable of the talents. And in that parable, a wealthy man goes on a long journey. And he takes his fortune and he divides it into 3 shares, and he entrusts each one of those shares to a different steward or manager. The first steward takes his share of the fortune and he buries it in the ground for safekeeping. The second manager takes his share of the fortune and he deposits it in the biblical equivalent of a bank to earn interest. The third takes his share of the fortune and he buys fields and flocks. Nobody had to explain to me that the one who had buried the gold in the ground had missed an opportunity, and that the one who had bought fields and flocks had done right by his master. I view my public service through the prism of that parable. The titles that we hold, that we seek, that sometimes we even crave, whether it's senator or representative or governor or lieutenant governor or commissioner or whatever, those titles in and of themselves do not mean anything. They're like the treasure that's buried in the ground. What makes them meaningful is what we do with them. And I promise you, for the 6 months that I've got remaining as a state senator, and if I'm fortunate enough to be elected your lieutenant governor, that each and every day I will take whatever title you've entrusted me and I will use it to advance the values that I know we share. Thanks so much for being here tonight, this afternoon, and thanks so much for listening.
All right. We didn't have any, our Secretary of State candidates were different parts of the state. So, Insurance Commissioner, we had invited them to be here. They've got representatives here. The State School Superintendent, current, Richard Woods. Please, Richard, if you would come up.
Again, thank you for coming out. It's a pleasure to be with you once again up in this beautiful part of the state. Again, I am thankful that the Lord allows this journey to continue. I thank you for your support. We had a great night in May, 153 out of 159 counties, so it was a tremendous victory for us. But we know that the next step is coming. We will have Democratic opposition. I'm thankful that they have a runoff right now, so I can kind of, watch them, battle it out. But it is something that, that we have to deal with, so I appreciate your continued support. One of the things we look at, that being a down ballot race, that always needs a little, incentive. Even with our Republican primary, there were 100,000, I think, Republicans who did not vote for the office of state school superintendent. So we want to make sure the importance of voting all the way down. It's like people that I tell with the last name Woods, it's kind of a challenge because I'm kind of used to being, at the bottom of the ballot. But with the office of state school superintendent, you find out that is truly a down ballot race. And I like to encourage people that you want to make sure that when we do vote, you go all the way to the woods and you go through the woods, okay? All right? And so that way we make sure that we get everyone who is on the Republican side, to make sure that every office is important. But again, being that said, I just want to assure you that good things are going on in public education in the state of Georgia. What I ran on, roughly a little over 4 years ago, we have kept that mission true. We talked about making sure that we would once again put the focus on our children and not a test. We have seen the largest reduction of state-mandated testing in our state's history, and that is paying big dividends because our teachers are now having time to spend with their kids. We have over an 80% graduation rate, the highest we have had in our state's history. We are making sure that our kids have options. We have done away with saying that one size fits all, where the expectation in the past was every child had to go to a four-year university. And I think that was one of the worst things we did in our state and our nation. But now our kids have opportunity. They can go, yes, to a four-year university, but they can also go to a technical school. They can join the military. They can start their own business or go into the workforce. And we're seeing great things come out of that. Also, we have looked at making sure that our kids have basics. We as a state are focusing on our elementary age. We're seeing good gains in reading and math and writing throughout the state. And I think for myself, growing up a military child, I know the importance of reading. I think the most important skill that we can transfer to our kids is reading. But also we've expanded opportunities for our young people. We now have a class in personal finance that each and every high school student has the option and opportunity to take. And I think, again, personal finance is probably one of the important classes to take, for us as young people. We're expanding them and giving them the opportunity to fine arts. Again, band, music, dance, drama, the arts. Again, something that really for 23 years was on the back burner in public education at the state level. We have looking at the jobs of the future, what we call STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Well, we have about 70 schools that have been certified in that area. We have almost half the schools in the state of Georgia are waiting to become STEM, and also STEAM certified. We throw the fine arts into that. We're giving our kids time to go out and play. And it's okay for a kid to go out and play. And that's, again, putting common sense back where it needs to be. Again, I appreciate your vote and your time. And like I said, we have some signs over here. I know for us, we're not in a runoff. And I am very thankful that I am not in a runoff, as I was last time. But, thinking about the fall, please take the signs, literature. Let's get ready to win this thing in November. If I can be of service to you as your state school superintendent, please feel free to reach out at any time, because for us at the department, I tell our folks day one, we are here to serve and not to be served. And that's something that I've made a commitment to you, as to you here today, because I do believe in local control. Again, my name is Richard Woods. I am your current state school superintendent. I'm asking for your vote again for another 4 years. And again, thank you again for your support in the past, and I look forward to earning that support in the future. Thank you very much.
Now we've got, for our local candidates, we have one office that is in a runoff, and I would like to bring forth one commission candidate who actually attended today.
Good afternoon. My name is Amberle Godfrey, and as Mr. Belle mentioned, Mr. Belle mentioned, I am running for County Commissioner for the west end of Pickens County. I would like to thank you for putting this together, and everybody on your team. These things just don't happen. It takes a lot of organization and planning to pull an event off like this. And I realize there are numerous responsibilities for the Board of Commissioners, but today I would like to focus on two. That would be economic development and education. And I realize that the Board of Commissioners has no real responsibility over education, but when we as citizens get tax bills, we pay one bill. And it goes, and a big portion of that goes to education. So when these two entities work together, everybody wins. If they can't work together, we all lose. And economic development is the driving engine for our county. It creates jobs that will put our children to work and keep them within our county. And we have employers in the county now that cannot find good employees. A qualified, educated workforce is vital for the economic development of our county. And my experience, I've worked with the school system for over 8 years. I've worked with the Chamber of Commerce as a board member for over 6. I feel like I am in that unique position for us to go another step forward, to bring those entities together, to work better for our community, to have the education and the business community really partnership to bring us forward. It's coming, folks. We've watched it. It's come from Atlanta to Marietta to Kennesaw to Canton. It's coming. Our population is going to rise. And if we don't prepare for that, and if we don't prepare to have economic development and the people to work for that, be it with the school system and Chattahoochee Tech, then we're going to lose it. We're going to lose big time because we have got to prepare. And that's what I want to do. I want to pull us forward. So I ask for your help, and I ask for your support in the runoff election so that we can prepare our young people for our future.
And now what I'd like to do, we have some other state candidates who are not in a runoff, thank goodness, but November will be just as important. I'd like to start at our state senator's level. I'll let Senator Gooch, if you would.
Thank you, Will. Appreciate it. I'm on the ballot in November, but I'm unopposed on the ballot. I always tell people I have a lot of opposition because nobody running against me. I'll try to work on that. But it's been an honor to be your state senator. I'm in my 4th term. 2-year terms, they come and go fast. We seem to campaign nonstop. But it's always good to be in Pickens County and Jasper. My old friend here, he and I were elected together back in, was it 18 years ago? You didn't have gray hair at the time. I was a sole commissioner over in Luncheon County, and Bill was over here in Pickens County. Obviously, I work well now with Becky and Jerry and Rob, and of course your mayor, John Weaver, wasn't here today. I talked to him this morning. There's a lot of good things going on in our state. We continue to work hard every day, and during session, it's a grueling process. We go into session the first of January and run through March. This year we left there. It was a exciting time. I really didn't think we would get a lot done, but we did. It was probably one of the most successful sessions we've had in the 8 years that I've served in the Senate, primarily because of Rick Jasper's work over in the House. We got on their bill. Brandon Beach, he's our neighbor to our south here. He represents Cherokee County and North Fulton. Brandon, you can take it back. Chuck Payne, he's your senator as well. He and I split Pickens County about half and half. And 515 is the dividing line for the most part. That varies some going up and down the road here, but you live up in Whitfield County and represents about 3 counties, so it's great to work with him in the Senate. But this year was a historic year. We did roll back the income tax. It's the first time it's ever been done in the history of our state. And we do give credit where credit is due, and that is with our U.S. Congress. Bills don't get passed without the House and the Senate in the U.S. As well as the state. So we owe credit to our U.S. Congress. Our U.S. Senators Isaacson and Perdue do a fantastic job. And of course, the leadership under Donald Trump has been phenomenal. With that legislation that they passed, it gave us an opportunity to do the same thing. So I'm proud of the leadership that Casey Cagle and Speaker Rawson showed in that process this year. We decided early on, once we heard that the Congress was going to roll back taxes up there, we would do the same thing. It was the right thing to do. Not all states have done that. A lot of states have decided to grab that money and spend it in things they like to spend it on and expand government. Georgia did the right thing. We gave that money back to the people. That's where it belongs. So this year we rolled the rate back 1/4%. Next year we'll roll back another 1/4%. And we'll continue to work on that to get rid of the income tax and continue to maintain a good, healthy economy in Georgia. We fully funded QBE this year for the first time ever. Democrats want to brag about QBE formulas. Richard, you understand when that was put in place, we didn't fully fund it then either when the Democrats were in control. This year we fully funded quality basic education formula for all public schools. Pickens County got an extra check this year as well. And so once the Democrats have lost that argument, what are they going to argue about? We've done a lot of good. The leadership that Richard has shown in his office, in the State Board of Education, working with the governor's office, we've done a lot of good in our educational areas. We need to do more. We'll continue to work on dual enrollment programs, and we'll continue to build our technical colleges like you have here in Pickens County. That's one of the strongest things we can do in our country to develop our workforce in the future is to send more kids to the technical schools. I can tell you, in North Georgia, in my district, I represent 8 counties. We've got some of the lowest unemployment rates right now we've had in the country. 2.8% in White County, 2.9% in Luncheon County. You're hovering right around 3% here in Pickens County, I believe. Those are historic lows. And so we've got to continue to develop a workforce for tomorrow's needs. And these businesses that are coming to Georgia, they're looking for a trained workforce. They don't necessarily need everybody to go to college at a 4-year university. They need trained technicians, computer people. They need automotive mechanics, welders, plumbers, electricians. Those are the jobs that we see in North Georgia. So we've got to continue to invest in those technical colleges. And we've done a great job with that. The dual enrollment program has been phenomenal as well. You're seeing students now leave high school and go to college in their sophomore, junior, and senior years. Some of them are graduating college almost simultaneously at the same time they're walking across the stage to get a high school diploma. I never thought of something like that occurring 20 years ago when I was at school, but we're seeing it today. So we're doing great things. It's been a good year. The governor came in to the Senate on the last day of sine die to say farewell. And he's done a fantastic job. You may not agree with everything that he's done or that we've done, but if you look at the overall performance of Governor Dill, I think it's been phenomenal as well. He worked 8 years, and he's put his heart and soul into that job. His wife, Sandra Dill, has been a fantastic First Lady. She's been to almost every school system in Georgia, reading to kids in K through 12. she's done a fantastic job. She has a lot of passion for education. But he stood in front of the Senate and talked a little bit about the history of the 8 years that he served, and he said something that I believe is so true. He said, if you can't go home this year and talk about the good things that we've done in the last few years and get reelected, then you probably don't need to be here. And so I think those words are true. Now, we have work to do. We still have things that we need to do better. We still have an opioid crisis in this country. We still have rural hospitals that are failing. We still have issues in rural Georgia that need to be worked on, like internet and access to better broadband, and we're working on that. We had a bill in the Senate this year that we passed, SB 402, the House passed it, so that goes into effect on July 1st. So we're going to continue to start bringing more resources to the rural parts of our state. It'll take a year to 2 years to see an impact of all of that work, but we're going to keep pushing harder to help rural Georgia. We've got to bring more industries back to the rural parts of our state. A lot of these new companies that are coming here want to be in Atlanta because of the public transit. They want to be close to the parks, the green space, the quality of life that these young people want to aspire to be around happens to be in Atlanta. We can provide that same quality of life or better out in the rural parts of the state. We've got to have good access to health care. We've got to have good access to educational systems that we do have. And we've got to have that workforce for those companies to be able to recruit for their employees. So we've got some work to do, but we'll continue to work on that every day we're down there. And it's been an honor for me to represent you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Now our other senator, Payne.
I could just say ditto to everything that Senator Gooch just said, but also just want to say 2 years ago I ran, I promised two things. I would not vote to take local control from local communities and local governments, and I would not vote to increase your taxes. And I can honestly stand here today and ask you for re-election, saying that I kept my word, and I continue to hope to keep my word in doing that. And same things I said before, I'll always say the truth to, because I've been involved in Republican Party politics for 26, 27 years, and I've always said, you know, when you're out there at 3 o'clock in the morning, putting up yard signs and at the 20th year around the voting precincts and the obscure areas of your county, you realize that you're no longer out there just for politics. You're out there because there's a principle, a core that's become part of you that's driving you to be out there at 3 o'clock in the morning putting those signs up year in and year out. Well, that's who I am. Those became part of my core. I know who the Republican Party is. I'm going to stay true to the Republican Party is. And just I ask for your vote again. I do have Democrat opposition in November. So I ask for your help and your assistance going forward. Make sure that we come out successful in November. And I appreciate anything that you can do to help us. And please just spread the word and help get everybody to turn back out in November. Thank you very much.
And now I'd like to introduce my representative, Rick Jasperse.
I was listening to Steve brag about what we did.
Bragged on you too.
And he bragged on me, and I thank you, Steve. But last night, you know, if you're in a, you know, I'm in a political family. Where is Marshall County?
Right here.
Oh, there she is. So if you've ever, you know, those y'all married, when you're sitting, your wife's sitting on the couch looking at you going, now you need to say this. Listen to her too. I did. I said, so Marcia, I did listen to you, sort of. And because she said, you talk about Republican ideas that we all work on, that Steve talked about, and that David Shafer talked about, that Chuck talked about, that all of us talked about, that we've done. You know, that Brandon's worked hard on. We've done, and we need to be proud. It was over at the Habitat for Humanity just a few minutes before here. You know, they handed over the keys to the house to a new family. And I sat there thinking, okay, what have we done as Republicans that we're proud of that give people like that a hand up? And I think that's what we forget. When we're out talking to our neighbors You know, I like Chuck, have a guy running against me in November, and I need your help. Just as we walk around talking to people, telling about the things that Senator Gooch so eloquently talked about. I'm not going to repeat all that. You'll get a newsletter from me in a couple of weeks that does. But we're like a stool. You know, it's got a bunch of legs on it. People talk about three-legged stools. We've got a bunch of legs on this stool. You know, our GOP chairman was here talking about how we need everybody to take part and be a part of it. And, you know, I got Bill Cagle back here under my stool, man. He's a great internet guy. It works hard, but we need all of y'all to do the things that let us be what we've done in Georgia. You know, like Steve said, when Governor Deal talked to the House, we all kind of grinned, and, you know, this is going to be easy to do that newsletter with. You know, the tax cuts, things we did for families. You know, Shafer worked so hard on the adoption bill. We all work together, and we've got a great team down there. We've got a great potential governor, two guys who are here today. They can lead us. We'll be 100% behind whoever it is as we move forward, and I look forward to doing that. But I just thought about that stool and just how important it was, Marcia, that you talked about that. How we all work together, we support one another. But I love what Steve said, all the good things we've done, and I hope you'll look forward to supporting me and all the Republican candidates in November. You know, Richard, appreciate, I'm the chairman of higher education, so I've gotten to know Richard Wood a whole lot better this year, and appreciate the job he's done. So we've got great candidates out there. I hope you work, let us talk to you and be a part of it. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here, Will, and thank you for getting everybody together. I appreciate it. You should recognize our newest elected school board guy, too. I can stand up and back here.
We're fortunate today to also have Martha Zoller representing U.S. Senator David Perdue. Martha?
Thank you all for having me today. I love coming to Pickens County. Just, you know, hashtag make Congress work again. You know, Senator Perdue led the effort to bring Congress and have them stay in session in August and to do the work they need to do. And if you follow the news, about a week or so ago, Mitch McConnell said, yes, they're going to work through the August recess. So we are very appreciative of all of that. I think, hey, yeah, let's give it a listen. Every day across my desk, I get an email how many days there are left, and if we work Fridays, how many days there are left. And you know, this is bringing, and what Senator Perdue has done is he has brought to Congress that work ethic that he had throughout his 40-year career. And he truly was an outsider when he came to you all about 4 years ago and started talking with you. And he looks forward to being here again in the future. He's sorry he could not make it today, but we are here and available for you. You can go to purdue.senate.gov and find out about how you can interact with our casework and that sort of thing. And I'm always available, and most of you all have my cell phone number, so you can call me anytime you need me, and you can look me up. Thank you.
Okay, I sure will. Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today, as your word says, we come together as one. It says in Christ we become one. And so, Lord, we come to you as one today, knowing that we are a family, and knowing that this contest that goes forward, we look forward to the things that come from it. And we look forward to the good things that will go forward from all this that we are going through now. Lord, we just ask you to give us direction, give us always purpose in your promise, that we would serve well. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.